And now, here's Mike Muse with the political news.
So let's get right to it and meet the candidates.
That completes the opening statement.
We're going to get right to it.
On Sway in the Morning.
All right, the very snazzy dressed Mike Muse is here. Blazer, no socks, Stacey Adams shorts and all.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Good morning.
Mike Muse, I was watching the election results in Alabama yesterday, and it seemed like Steve Bannon somehow scored the victory.
He did, man.
Yeah.
It was essentially anti-establishment, the GOP, versus the traditional GOP wing of the Republican Party. So as we all know, there was a vacant Senate seat that was left open by the appointment of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Once he left, he was appointed by the Alabama governor. The Alabama governor had to then appoint Senator Strange that's his last name is Strange, to hold the seat. But as a result, now Senator Sessions' term was up, so now Strange had to go forward on his own and run for the seat itself.
Earn the seat.
So Strange was being backed by the traditional Republican Party. He was backed by Mitch McConnell. Even President Trump came in and lended his support to support Senator Strange.
Is that where he did the famous "son of a bitches" speech?
Yes, was in Alabama
when he did the rally.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And as a result of all the establishment GOP coming to defense of Senator Strange, they dedicated Sway $4.7 million in TV ads to go against Judge Roy Moore, who was the anti-establishment. Judge Roy Moore, Sway, only spent $1 million on this. And so there is a huge discrepancy of money that was poured into this race from establishment. And it just goes to show that you didn't need a lot of money in order to win this race. And what ended up happening, Sway, was that Judge Roy Moore ended up winning. The guy who spent less money, the guy who did not have any support from the traditional Republican base, he came out and he won in a very decisive victory.
Isn't it the same way President Trump, similar to how he won?
I wouldn't say, well, that's debatable in terms of decisive victories.
Yeah.
He was decisive winner in the electoral college map, but there's some discrepancy since he's lost a popular vote by 3 million votes to Secretary Clinton. But within Alabama, though, Sway, you're absolutely right. He won decisively in Alabama. Alabama is traditionally a Trump supporter.
Roy Moore has made some really controversial comments that's gotten him in trouble that made me uncomfortable in the past. Can you talk about some of the things he said?
Yes, and this is the reason why the establishment GOP is concerned. This is why they were voting for Strange, is because Senator Mitch McConnell did not want to have to deal with this in the Senate, and he didn't want to have to be beholden to respond to these type of comments that he's made, such as, Sway, Judge Roy Moore believes that homosexuality is illegal. He believes that Muslims should not sit in Congress. Actually, Sway, he opposed current sitting Congressman Keith Ellis, who is Muslim, to being sworn in by the Quran. He went on to say, Sway, quote, "Congress has the authority and should act to prohibit Ellison from taking the congressional oath today. There's enough evidence for Congress to question Ellison's qualifications to be a member of Congress because Islam is directly contrary to the principles of the Constitution." Sway, he went on to say he supports the birther movement, does not believe Obama is a citizen and was born here. He believes 9/11, Sway, was God punishing for America being perversiveness and moving towards America's secularness. He went on to quote Bible passages and scriptures where he says, quote, "Word and trust and pervasiveness and oppression leading to a wall breaking suddenly and in an instant." That's him referring to 9/11. And his beliefs on Putin's, Sway, he believes that him and Putin are akin to each other. And then he also has referred to the Reds and the Yellows, which is derogatory terminology for Native Americans and for Asians.
He called Asians yellows and the Native Americans the Reds. And he got elected to office.
Yeah. Yes. In a very decisive manner, without having any money.
Home run.
So this is the concern that the Republican Party is having to face with, is having these individuals come in. And you know what, Sway? You know who came back in to add conversation to this? Is Mr. Steve Bannon. And here's what he had to say.
As you all remember, last night we talked about starting a revolution with Judge Moore's victory. Well, Senator Corker stepped down today. He's not going to run for re-election. And you're going to see in state after state after state people that follow the model of Judge Moore, that do not need to raise money from the elites, from the crony capitalists, from the fat cats in Washington, D.C., New York City, Silicon Valley. The question was called today in the state of Alabama. Who's sovereign? The people or the money? And Alabama answered today, the people. Thank you very much.
Steve Bannon, man.
So Steve Bannon is back, Sway, and he's back in a
But how does that work? Steve Bannon was backing one candidate and President Trump was backing the other.
Yes, and this was, guys, interesting. So Steve Bannon, obviously, Bannon was obviously backing Judge Moore.
Yeah.
In all intents and purposes, Judge Moore would be more aligned with the Trump value system, the Trump style of the campaign, this Trump style voter. But Trump felt the need to support the traditional establishment candidate who was sitting in the Senate. But in Alabama, at the rally, he did say, I think I might have made a mistake by endorsing Strange, who was the one that all the moderate establishment Republicans wanted. But in all intents and purposes, Moore is more aligned with the Trump supporter. But what's interesting is that's why we asked that question. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we asked the citizens to kind of chime in and say, like, who is the Trump supporter? Do they still support the brand of Trump that it is right now? Do they support the rhetoric? Do they support, some of the policies that he's issuing? And our callers called up and said that they still do. This is signs that this is evidence-based now, that they still support even this type of rhetoric. They'd rather choose this type of rhetoric than the establishment, which is going to create a wave, almost election in the midterms to see such as Senator Corker, who's a very establishment candidate who's now retiring. Steve Bannon is now on a mission to get other anti-establishments such as Moore to run against the incumbents such as Corker who are retiring to go against them, which will cause a lot of confusion going forward in defining what is a GOP.
Okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm going to open up the phone lines, 888-742-3345, and then we'll come back. I'm going to talk about Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And
healthcare.
Sway in the morning, Shea 45.